we need to do something about climate change because the longer we wait, the worse it gets, and the more expensive it costs to do what we ultimately, inevitably have to do. So this talk is not about that fight, which is technological. Like we have to develop technologies to sequester carbon, to wind power, solar power, just like batteries. There's a lot that can be done. The problem is it costs money, and the problem is our governments, the United States government, China, Brazil, Europe. I mean, like the governments aren't spending nearly enough to fund this fight. Then now you have to ask yourself, why is that? Why aren't they spending what they need to on this very, very important, mission for our planet, for our for our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, for the future? And the answer couldn't be more simple. It's because, like we here in the United States and in other countries, have a system of politics that allows very rich people and very rich corporations to essentially bribe our politicians. The way it works is they will contribute huge sums to the campaigns of politicians that tell them, oh yeah, no, you elect me and I promise you I'm not going to do, or I'm going to do as little about climate change as possible. That's where we're at. It's like we have so many politicians that don't work for the United States, don't work for the world, don't work for the people. They're working for these contributors. So what's the all right, before we get into the answer, ask yourself, how do these rich people and corporations earn the money to stop our politicians, to elect politicians that won't do anything about climate change? And the answer couldn't be more simple. It's like they sell us products. You go to the supermarket, you buy products, you make Nestle and General Foods and all these food corporations richer, or it could be in other product segments, across the board. And as you're buying these products, they're using some of these profits to buy our politicians, to bribe them, as through campaign donations. So all right, so what's the answer? Well, we can't. We've been trying to get politicians to do the right thing for decades, and they haven't. So the answer, and to my mind, the only answer, because like if money controls politics, then essentially that means we have to raise more money than the corporations that are preventing us from fighting climate change. So that's what this talk is about. Basically, this talk is about our creating a whole industry of new companies that are created, that are designed to finance our fight against climate change. For example, you go to a supermarket and you want to buy tomato sauce or salad dressing or anything, and you've got like a product that is sold by Kraft or General Foods or one of the huge multinational food companies. Or you've got a product sitting right next to it where right on the label, it says like 100% of the profit from the sale of this product is used to fight climate change. So it's giving you a choice. So like, it's the same product, all right? Let's say it's tomato sauce. Same tomato sauce pretty much, tastes the same and costs you the same. So this system then is empowering you as a shopper, spending money you would ordinarily spend, not spending any more money than you would spend to help fight climate change each time you go shopping. We'll focus more on food shopping here in this talk, but this can apply to pretty much virtually every product market. Now, you might ask, well, how am I so confident that this system would work, that this retooling of capitalism so that it fights climate change, it finances the fight against climate change, rather than making rich politicians richer and giving them more money to buy our politicians? Back in when I published this book called Climate Rescue Capitalism, it's online. You can if you Google Climate Rescue Capitalism blog, it'll take you to my WordPress blog. You can actually download a free PDF, but it's also available in audiobook and Kindle and print version. But so like before I published that book, I stood outside of a supermarket here in White Plains, New York, and I asked 50 shoppers, if your supermarket offered you new food products that were equal in price and quality to the products you now buy, and you knew that 100% of the profit from the sale of these products would be used to fight climate change, would you buy these products? And I had the respondents, the people I asked, actually read from a clipboard. So I didn't want to influence their answer with how I asked the question. So, turns out 44 out of 50 of the people I asked said yes, 44. Now that translates to an 88% market share. I don't know if you're not familiar with how marketing works, at least in supermarkets, if a product has a 5% market share, they're hugely successful. So like, let's say, all right, so 88% of the people say, yes, we'll buy these products. Let's say only half buy them. That's 44%. Let's say only 1/4 buy them. That's 22%. So basically, even with a 10 or a 5% market share, we would be generating literally billions of new dollars each year to lobby our politicians. I mean, like somebody from a rich, corporate corporation is giving a candidate, let's say, $1 million or $2 million for their campaign, so that they will do, again, their will and not fight climate change. So we raise the money to give that candidate $5-10 million. We basically outspend these corporations, and as we do that, then we get more politicians that we elect to do what needs to be done. After that, I mean, like, this goes beyond climate change, because basically, like, this system of allowing people to buy our government, to buy our democracy through bribing essentially our politicians, it doesn't just harm us relative to climate change. It really is, a really unfortunate and harmful political system. So, with this money, I mean, like, we could also just lobby to get money out of politics so that neither we nor rich corporations can influence our politicians, so that then they're listening to the people as they should be. Okay, so now let's get into the theory. So I'm advocating that we create these new companies and start selling products. Now, I cited that survey that I did, but we don't have to rely on that, like, toward the future. In other words, like, there is a prototype company because, like, people will ask, well, wait a minute, how is a company going to stay in business if it's donating 100% of its profits to, in this case, the fight against climate change? So we don't have to rely on a theoretical model. This isn't, something that may look good on paper, but may not work out well in the real world. Back in 1982, actor Paul Newman, author Alex Hotchner, together with absolutely no marketing experience, no food marketing experience, launched a product. Their first product was salad dressing, and they decided to give 100% of the profit from these products, the sale of these products, to charities. And they've given to thousands of charities, worthy causes, good causes. And they in fact, on the label of their products, they say 100% of profits to charity. So All right, they started in 1982. Now let's fast track to 2021, and thus far, they have earned over $550 million. All of it, given away to these, worthy causes. Now, what we need to do, what we can do, is use this Newman's Own model to launch not just 1 or 10 or 100, but 1,000 different companies that exist to finance the fight against climate change, that exist to raise the money to outspend the corporations so that we buy back our politicians. That's the basic idea. So Newman's Own, his company's Newman's Own, they demonstrated that a company that donates all its profits, they have to do it every year and then start over, cannot just survive in business, but actually thrive. Right now, they sell over 100 products, I think about 112 or so. So that's the basic idea. But this isn't just about doing a lot of good for the world. This isn't just about, helping to fight climate change. This can also make a lot of young entrepreneurs, people who care about the planet, care about the future, but also need to make money to get married, raise a family, to have a life. This way, that this climate rescue capitalism that I'm describing, the retooling of capitalism, can also make it possible for these young entrepreneurs to literally earn 6- and 7-figure salaries, running one of these companies. So let me explain how that works. In the not-for-profit industry, you have not-for-profit organizations that solicit contributions from people, and then they provide services, whether it's like medical research, emergency assistance, there's charities for everything. And so a standard in that industry is they devote about 20% of the money they take in from contributors to operating expenses, to salaries, to buying paper, office space, this overhead. So it's 20%, and that's the standard. That's been the standard for decades. So let's apply that 20-80 standard, 20% operating expenses, 80% services, to these new companies. Now, an interesting thing about Newman's Own is that he actually had no overhead. He rented office space. Basically, they first of all, Hotchner and he did all this with $20,000. So $20,000 in 1984, that's about $50,000 now. But the idea is that he essentially outsourced all of the manufacturing and distribution. So he didn't have overhead. He didn't have to he rented an office. He didn't have to. So anybody could do this, from their basement or wherever. He didn't do any marketing, and we'll get into that later, or advertising. And he only had 4 employees. His friend Alex Hotchner, the author, a part-time secretary, a part-time bookkeeper. All right, so they basically, they had virtually no overhead. So apply this to these new climate rescue capitalism businesses that these young people will create. Let's say they end up donating, and we'll just go in rough figures right now, but let's say they donated $1 million to the fight against climate change in their first year. Okay, so that's, 20% of $1 million would be 200,000. So let's say there's 2 of them. Let's say, 2 people get together, create the business, market the product. Again, everything's outsourced. They each earn that year $100,000. That's their salary for the first year. But again, remember the survey, 88% of people said they would buy these products. So the next year, they make and donate $5 million to the fight against climate change. And again, they're not just doing this to do good. They're doing this to make a lot of money. So if they donate $5 million to fighting climate change, their salary goes up. They each, that year, earn $250,000. Okay, so like, do the math. They donate 10 million. They're now earning $500,000. And so like that's the incentive for people to get into this business, this new industry, not just because it's the right thing to do, not just to help the planet, not just to help future generations, but to make a lot of money. Okay, so that's basically the idea, and now, what we need to do now is like, how are people going to like get this started? Because like Newman, Paul Newman, he didn't spend a penny on marketing or advertising. What he did is he launched two product introduction events. One of them was at a bar called Hanratty's on the Upper East Side of Manhattan, and the other one was at a supermarket in Connecticut called Stu Leonard's. So basically what they did is they alerted the media, we're launching a product, and the media came, and it was kind of like an entertainment thing. Newman's an actor, and days after, the next day, they were inundated by orders, for their salad dressing, their first product. So we're going to take a different approach with this climate rescue capitalism, with these, generating this new industry that's going to make a lot of young people rich, as richer than they need to be, but they're going to be paid well for helping the climate, helping finance the climate, the fight against the climate. So we basically what we need to do is kind of like create let's say a global product launch event, or before the product launch event, the entrepreneurs out there need to know about this idea, need to have it explained to them, need to understand it. So the next step in this, and it's something I'm working on, is we need a film producer who documents, who's a documentary film producer who creates documentaries, to put together this film telling you exactly what I'm telling you now, but in a lot more detail, and using actors and actresses that people trust, really getting the idea out there, not just to people here in the United States, but to people throughout the world. Okay, so like, and what this film represents is, this is not just a retooling of capitalism to fight climate change. This is a retooling of capitalism to fight poverty, to better finance education, to better finance healthcare. Because like, if I ask that same question to 50 people, and the topic was funding education or funding healthcare, the answer would probably be yes for a similar percentage. I mean, at one point years ago, I asked people, 100 people, if they would buy these products if the cause was ending global poverty, ending world hunger, and 92 out of 100 said yes. So this is not just about fighting climate change. This is about retooling our capitalist economies throughout the world, so they're no longer just making rich people so rich that they can buy our government and stop us from doing what we need to do. We're starting with the climate rescue capitalism, with climate change, because climate change is urgent. It's dire. It's the most pressing issue, and it's something that enough people care about that this launch of this new industry, should work out wonderfully successfully. So that's the idea. We need to find a producer, and all right, so like, in other words, I wouldn't recommend, you watch this, I wouldn't recommend you on your own going out there right now and putting down $50,000 to launch your first product if you're an entrepreneur. You want to wait until the film is out, and then like what the film is going to like invite we as a world to do is create an organization that's going to like, tell people on social media that these products are being created and they're being sold to finance the fight against climate change. Basically, it's an organization that helps the industry to grow, that basically gets out the message so that the media know that these products are out there, so that the public know these products are out there. So that's the basic idea. So let me think. Okay, let's see. All right, let's go through it again. This idea is about stopping rich people, rich corporations, from stopping us from fighting climate change. That's what it's about. And because like I can't think of another answer. What are these politicians going to finally find religion and realize that how immoral it is for them to do the bidding of these rich donors at the expense of future generations, at the expense of the climate? I don't think the politicians, in fact, we tend, and this system we have tends to reward politicians who are in it for the money. I mean, here in the United States, if somebody runs for Congress, House of Representatives, they win. It's a 2-year term. They get, I think, over $100,000, maybe $120,000 as a salary that year. If they lose, re-election 2 years later, they get to retire with a full pension of $120,000. However, that it's certainly over $100,000. That's corrupt. What other industry, what other kind of job do you work for 2 years and are entitled to full pay when you retire? And again, if they lose, that's like retirement. So this system is not just about retooling capitalism so that it better finances the needs of we the people. It's also about a way to get politicians leading us who really care about the people, care about the future, care about the country and the world more than they care about themselves. A lot of politicians today are in it, to make money. They know they can, like, once they serve 2 years in Congress or 6 years as a senator, they make a lot of connections. So then corporations pay them to lobby on their behalf. They know that when they're running for office, they know that that's not the real gig for them. The real gig is after they retire, that they will be lobbyists. They'll be influence peddlers making a lot of money. So, all right, let's get back to the climate rescue capitalism again. Let's review the idea. They're not, we had just this conference, we had the Paris Agreement, we had Kyoto in Japan, Rio de Janeiro. This is going back decades. They have these conferences where the countries all say, oh yes, we are committed to reducing greenhouse gas emissions by 90% by 2050. It all sounds great, but for decades, nothing has been done, virtually nothing. And so, unless you've got a better answer, I can't think of a better answer. Like, if money is preventing us, the money rich people and corporations give to our politicians is preventing us from doing what we need to do about climate change, the only answer that I can see right now is to compete with them for those product dollars and buy back our politicians. And certainly, because like this can apply to everything. It doesn't just apply to supermarket products. Let's go through this because this is exciting. Like I frame this within supermarkets because that's kind of like point of sale, that's live and all. But a lot of marketing today is digital. So imagine if you shop on Amazon, as so many of us do. There's a button. If you're a Prime member, you click a button and it shows you only products that you can buy through Prime, Amazon Prime, free shipping, whatever. So let's say there's another button. Let's say you're shopping for whatever it is. You click this button, show me climate rescue capitalism companies that are selling the same product. So the results are just limited to these corporate. Now, in the beginning, there won't be many, but the idea is to give shoppers the alternative. It's kind of like turning shopping into a democratic act. We can choose to have our product dollars make rich people richer, in which case they'll use that money to stop us from fighting climate change, or we can choose, to have our money, our product profit dollars finance the fight against climate change. And again, that's just the beginning, because Amazon, so you're on Amazon buying all these things, and we have democratized shopping. We as shoppers now wield a lot more power because we can choose whether we're going to make rich people richer by the products we buy, or whether we can fight climate change and do a lot of other good that isn't being done yet. And so that's the idea. And again, think about it. What do you expect might change over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years to convince the politicians who, again, are receiving money from these lobbyists, from these corporations, to do the right thing? They haven't done the right thing, for decades. I mean, Inconvenient Truth came out in 2006. So it's already 15 years later, and they haven't done anything. I think we can't expect for them to change how they do things. So this by my understanding, is the only way, the only strategy that I can think of that is going to change the dynamic. All right, so that's the idea. If you're a filmmaker, if you know a filmmaker, documentarian, get the idea to them, because that's where there are other, for example, if somebody watches this and they know somebody on social media who's really well connected, this idea can also spread through social media, Facebook, Instagram, So there are other ways to do it. I think a film would be wonderful, because a film would explain to the public, the global public, why these new companies need to be created, why thousands need to be created, to generate the funds to fight climate change. So, and once we do that, again, we do that, the big payoff is that it's not just about climate change. Once we reform our system by competing with these companies that own our politicians, by competing against them and lobbying on our own, once we do that, then we can reform government so that it serves us across the board, throughout everything. Okay, so thanks for listening, and talk about it. Talk about the idea.